All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for waiting to join us today for our Access to Experts session. Today, I'm very happy to have joining us Ago, who I've known since his time here as a student. Always left a very memorable impression with anybody he kind of talked to and spoke with. And I'm very excited to have him back and joining us again to talk about what he's been doing, his career trajectory, and different things like that. So with that, I will just ask for Ago to just do a quick intro on yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. And excited to be here as well, of course. So my name is Ago. I am originally from Italy, graduated from med school over there. Then right after med school, pretty much, I moved to Baltimore for my dual degree. I did an MPH, MBA, the two-year program. And right after my master's, I joined LEK Consulting as a life science consultant in our Boston office. I'm now a manager still at LEK. I've been at the company like 3 years, more or less 3 years and a half. So it was kind of a pretty broad career, a pretty sharp career transition, right, from practicing to a laptop type of job. And I know there are a lot of folks at Bloomberg or Carey or Bloomberg and Carey, they faced that, the decision to pivot to a completely different career relative to the ones that they come from before the masters. So I'm happy to address questions about that or about LEK or life science consulting or whatever it's of interest for the group.
Yeah, and I think you kind of already touched on the first question is, talking about your career trajectory and kind of how you landed at LEK. So maybe if you could, walk through some of that timeline for us of kind of the after graduation, how things have been for you. Yeah,
so I mean, one of the advantages, if you want, of my degree, the MBA, MPH, is that it gives you 2 years to think about what you want to do next and to prepare. The MPH by itself, assuming that it's still like it was back in the day, it's half of that time. So like it's a little more crammed in 1 year. But basically what I did, the first year was more an exploration. So on the table, I had a lot of different interests, including jobs like the World Bank or Bill Gates Foundation or research stuff or getting a PhD and consulting. So a little bit of a mess. Then towards the end of the first year, though, I would say starting probably in September of my first year, I started being a little more intentional. And I started focusing more on consulting. Reason being is that I connected pretty early on and pretty randomly with people that work in management consulting at companies like LEK, McKinsey, Bain, BCG. And that was a fascinating, there were a bunch of fascinating people, first of all, a lot of degrees, a lot of they traveled a bunch, they look just cool people. And so I'm like, yeah, I want to be like them. So at the beginning it was purely like a gut feeling. Then they started sharing like what was the day-to-day job and the type of projects, the lifestyle, and I find that pretty aligned with what I wanted from my career. And so I started preparing for these case interviews. Consulting is not the usual behavioral interview, but there is a component which is a business case that requires some preparation. So I started doing that. I connected with a bunch of people through the career services or through LinkedIn or alumni of Carey or Bloomberg that work at this type of companies. And so I started all that year one, and I landed a job for my summer internship at Sage Growth Partners. That is a tiny consulting company based in Baltimore. At the time it was based in Baltimore. Now I think they are remote. And I started interviewing for this type of companies, McKinsey, BCG, and all that. and actually landed my job at LK after graduation. So like after the fact, which was a little stressful because all my peers, they had a job lined up, they enjoyed the summer, and I was still preparing for interviews after graduation. And so I graduated in May. I got the offer in June or July. I spent a month in Hawaii after that. And then I joined LK in October. So it was a little bit unconventional relative to the usual path where year one, you prepare, you land a summer internship in the company, that then you join full time. So I didn't follow the usual path, but I landed where I wanted, despite that. It takes a little bit of faith and preparation, but at the end it worked out.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about LEK, what they do, and for anybody here that might not be familiar with who they are?
Yeah, so LEK is a strategy consulting company. It's a global company, so we have offices in the US. We have 6 offices. We have 1 office in Brazil, offices in Europe, Asia Pacific, Australia. Around 1,700 people worldwide. And we are in pretty much all industries, from healthcare to industrials, consumer. But we have a deep focus in life sciences, healthcare and life sciences. Life sciences in particular means pharma. So my clients are pharmaceutical companies, anything from biotech, with 200 people to big pharma with 100,000 people. So literally we have clients spanning throughout the pharmaceutical industry. And I joined, one of the things about LK is that you can join with a dedication right away. So you don't need to be a generalist, like at other firms, especially that's a recent change. In my case, it was even back in the days, I could join as a life science specialized person because of my background as a physician. But if you didn't have a background in life sciences, you were joining as a generalist. Now we changed the rules a few months ago, and we allow everyone to sign up for a rotation. So you join, if you want to explore consumer products, you join for a 6-month rotation there. If you like it, you keep going. Otherwise, you change to another rotation. So everyone pretty much has the chance to like sectorialize right away, with flexibility to change sector. And in my case, I joined life sciences. I'm still in life sciences, so there was a good opportunity, good selling point, also because I didn't want to work on stuff that didn't pertain medicine or pharma. So there was an easy sell.
Well, and that kind of leads to my next question is, what do you enjoy the most about doing the life sciences consulting? And then what do you enjoy the least about doing it?
Sure. So the good thing about consulting in general is that you work with a lot of clients. So if you don't like a client, you just need to wait a couple of months and it's over. If you love a client, though, like in a couple of months, it's over. So you're basically are working for different bosses all the time, right? Like, I mean, it's a platform, my company, that allows me to get access to a bunch of different pharmaceutical companies. And I work we are strategy consultants, so I generally work with C-level people. We don't do implementation work, but you generally work with more junior people. It's literally, it's really high strategic stuff. I mean, now I'm working with the CEO of a company in New Jersey, and the board of directors there, working with the chief, with the commercial leadership team at another company. So it's really, you're working with the decision makers. And that's really fascinating because you change things around, right, at these companies with our recommendations. And that's really what I love the most, the impact portion. I mean, you're really reading the news stuff that I took active part on. There were my recommendations that these companies bought the company that I suggested them to buy. You see that in the news. You cannot tell anyone, of course, because it's confidential, but I know that I was, that was my recommendation. And then it's you never feel alone in consulting. That's another thing that I like. You always have teams. I don't have fears to fail, if you want, because you always work in teams. I mean, sometimes I have the best ideas and that's good, but if I don't have the best idea, someone else has it and it's fine. The project still works. What I like the least, I mean, it's not a 9-to-5 job. it's probably a 9 to 10, meaning 9 a.m., 10 p.m. on average. It could be 11 p.m., it could be later. Then we have sustainability policies in place, like out by 6 on Thursday, Fridays generally out by 5 p.m. So we have policies in place to make it sustainable, but it's not a job where, okay, that's this question 3 here. It's not a 9 to 5 job. I mean, on the other side, like the pay is probably double, triple, quadruple what the pay that it would be a 9 to 5 job. So that's, I mean, it's a high intensity but high reward type of job, you know. That's probably the one thing that you know, if I need to mention one thing that
Right.
I mean, I would love to work 9 to 5 if I could, but I cannot.
Right, exactly. Well, and I think what you say there too, in terms of what you find to be the most interesting is the work that has impact. So I think for anybody that does come into public health, whatever sector of public health they go into, they have a strong desire to know that the effort that they're putting in is going to have an impact. And it's good to hear that, you know, it can happen in a lot of different places, especially with pharmaceuticals, and to where, you know, you can see the help that you made to get maybe a drug to market or something like that had a big help.
Yeah, no, you're right. And sometimes I ask myself, like, why am I here? What do I like about this job? Like, what's my goal in life? And the answer, I mean, really, what we're doing and what I do is trying to get the right drug to the right patient as fast as possible. I mean, that's just what it is. That's what I do. Then of course, every project is a little different. Like some projects are more M&A, but at the end of the day, the goal is always the patient. And I'm seeing that, you know, like, and I like it. It's a very, it's a job with a lot of purpose. I mean, of course, I'm talking just about life sciences. I would never work in consumer. Like, I don't care, you know, like that's not my what I want to do in life. Like I'm still a physician and I'm still practicing in another way. Right. But I don't feel that I'm a failed doctor, if you want, right? Like sometimes, like some people feel like that, especially if you work, if they start working at a company's generalists and they work with airlines and these, like, that's a feedback that I get from some of my friends that work at competing companies, especially. I never felt that way. I mean, I feel that it's a job with a lot of purpose, and it's still, I mean, it's not public health per se, but the patient is always the end goal, if you want.
Yeah. Well, it always kind of, it cycles back to where you started as a clinician. So as a clinician, you're very much focused on the patient. And then you come to public health, it then becomes focused on a population. And then now you're in a role to where you almost have a bit of both, in that you're still focused on the patient while doing it at a larger scale. And I think for most that come into public health, that would be what they feel like that they want to do. So it's not that, you know, there's one way was better than the other one. It's just it's something that allows you to kind of fulfill both areas of you that are very important.
Yeah, totally. And we work even, I mean, LEK also does a lot of pro bono projects for malaria, for example, for I mean, we work for a set of companies as on a yearly basis. Like we do a series of pro bono projects, and those are purely public health. These companies don't pay us, right? Like we do that purely pro bono. I never been on projects like that because I care more about rare diseases. That's my area. Mm-hmm. But I mean, even if you think about the COVID-19 pandemic, we work with most of the companies that were launching a vaccine, and we were foundational in building those organizations, right? I mean, these companies went from 200 people to 2,000 people. And we were the ones responsible of creating their hiring plans, like understanding how to structure the company, value proposition of the product, forecasting the market from the demand side, the supply side. So we were foundational in a lot of that, which, I mean, that's public health, right? The global health.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, how long do you believe that it took you before you were able, within the work that you're doing, to specialize in something? So I can see, like, specializing in rare disease is not common for everybody that might go into this. That was there like you had to wait for that, or you were able to kind of come right in and say, this is what I want to be doing?
Yeah, it came naturally. So I was in a lot of different projects. My first couple of projects were in rare diseases. I performed very well on those projects. So like the next time that there was a project similar to that, the partners asked for me. And so I started building reps in that area. And so now it comes naturally that if there is a rare disease project, like I'm the person that they think about, right? Because of my experience. So it came pretty much naturally. Then I know people that they want rare diseases, but they were staffed on projects on oncology and they performed very well in oncology. So they kept staffing them on oncology projects. So they became oncology experts. Maybe it was not now they love it. Maybe it was not where they wanted to go, but they became experts. And so that's where they are. I know some other people that are in advanced modalities like CAR T therapies, gene therapy, and that happened almost like by chance, right? Because they were staffed randomly on that type of project. They loved it, they performed well. And so now every time that we have a project in gene therapy, that's the first person that they think about. So it comes, it's a little bit by chance. It's not necessarily intentional. But I'm happy that it's for that. Sometimes we don't know what we want. And so we need to get stuff thrown at us to figure out what we like. So I like the way that it worked out, right? Because I didn't need to make the decision. The decision was sort of presented to me. They presented a lot of, I work in vaccines as well. Hate it. I don't like vaccines. Like not my area, not my thing.
Yeah.
And I told the company, don't ever staff me on a vaccine project again because I don't like it.
Right.
As a public health, I shouldn't say that as a school of public health graduate. But I like these rare diseases, terrible, like especially pediatric, where there is no treatment, not a lot of attention because there are like 3,000 patients, 16,000 patients. So like, but in the economics is completely different because like you need to price these drugs so high because you need to recoup the cost. You don't have a lot of patients, right? So you need to recoup the cost of R&D. So it's a very complex space that doesn't work with the usual oncology or diabetes or vaccine dynamics, and that's what I like about rare disease.
Got it. So I guess maybe talk me through answering this question 3 of like a work week in terms of what to do. So you've talked a little bit about the hours of the day, and I don't necessarily think that we need a play-by-play of like your day, but how does a week shape up for you usually in the work that you're doing?
I can describe this week.
Okay.
Of course, it's a shorter week, but generally, I'm on 2 projects at the same time. And on top of that, I'm leading also a couple of affinity groups at the company, one that is Pride and one that is called AIDA, which is a group for international employees. So that's also part of my work week. So what I do, like on Monday, I generally connect with my 2 teams for the 2 projects. Generally, there are 2 consultants to discuss the plan for the week. So key meetings, key presentations that we need to send out, like key roadblocks, where we are we overspending in the interview campaign? Are we okay? Like, so we discuss everything, and that's every day. Like one team is at 9, one team is at 9:30 generally. After that, like a bunch of emails to address from the client, from the partners. Then there is the actual work, which is analysis. It could be checking the model that my team created, like reviewing slides, making slides. And that takes probably like 60% of my time, I would say. Meetings, client meetings, presentations. Like this week, I probably have like 6-7 client meetings where we share findings. Some of them are final presentations, some of them are interim presentations. A lot of interviews. Sometimes I lead them myself, sometimes my team do that, but we interview physicians to inform findings. I like to lead those interviews. This week I have probably 7-8 hours of those interviews. And then I have meetings for affinity groups. That's a pro bono, if you want, thing that I do. But now we're planning a couple of happy hours in February for both Pride, LK and AIDA. And so we're trying to figure out what to do, like what type of stuff to order and then food and drinks. So like that's also part of my work week.
Yeah.
Then Friday is generally happy hour in the office, which is a good day, Friday or Thursday. So the week ends with a drink always, which is good.
Good.
But that's pretty much the life cycle.
Yeah. And I guess is it normal that you're usually doing like 2 projects at a time? Is there a limit in how many the company wants you to be involved in, so you're not spreading yourself out too thin?
That starts at the manager level. So when you join the company after an MBA, you join as a consultant. After a PhD, as a life science specialist. So it depends, like really every case. With an MPH, I'm not sure exactly at what phase they would join the company. But MPH, MBA would join as a consultant. So consultant generally stays a consultant for 2 years, and during the up to consultant, you know, the pyramid is associate, senior associate, associate consultant, senior associate consultant, consultant, senior consultant, manager, senior manager, principal, partner. Up until senior consultant, people are staffed on 1 project at a time. At the manager level, you start being staffed on 2 projects. At the principal level, it's 2, sometimes 3. You can also elect to be on more projects than that, but just as an advisor and not like be too plugged in. At the partner level, it could be as many as you can sell or as many as you're dragged into. But you know, my role changed substantially though from consultant to manager. As a consultant, I was making all slides. You know, I was literally tagging slides to the team. Like there was a lot of execution. Now there is a lot of review of materials, and I need to take like a more like higher level look at the deliverables. So I don't. I asked my team, can you put together a slide that says this and this and that with this analysis? They do that. I review it. Before I was the one that was doing the slide, right? So there is a little more time to like balance multiple cases.
Do you find you have a preference for one over the other? And I mean, obviously, or just it's a natural evolution of the work is you're at that stage to where you're more comfortable reviewing and setting the expectations for someone to work than actually having to do it yourself.
I mean, it's sort of a necessary step, this step, right? Because in order to become a part, I mean, it's very good to execute very well on one thing. Like it's harder to execute very well on 2 things. It's even harder to execute very well on 4. And I think LEK is structured very well in the sense that they ease you into the partnership, like by giving you like 2 cases, then you can take 3 or 4, and then when you're a partner, you take more than that. But it's the natural evolution to get you there to a point where you can manage more cases. And by doing 2 projects at the same time, you're exposed to more clients, so you can build your own sort of portfolio of clients. You're exposed to more challenges. You're exposed to more reps. So like you see twice the things that you would see as a consultant. So it's a pace that makes you grow faster. So it's more challenging, but I think I got there at the right time where I could take it. So it was not like, what am I going to do now? You know, it was a natural evolution, if you want.
Right. And I guess in thinking about your peers and maybe working at other places of consulting, is that similar in terms of how that kind of tiered process of moving along works, or is it something that might be different, you think, at other places?
So I'm not entirely sure. I think it's pretty much similar. I don't know, because you know we call roles in a different way. Every company calls the role in a different way. I think probably at an MBBs, but don't quote me on that. I think at MBBs they keep managers to be single staffed longer than we do. But like don't quote me on that because I'm not entirely sure, because the roles again they don't match. But it takes longer generally at other firms to get to partner. At LEK you become equity partner. I mean personally I can become partner in 2 years or 3 years from now, right? And there will be equity partner. Other companies, they ease you into partner first, and then partner, like managing director first or something, then partner and managing director, which includes the equity portion. At LEK, we don't have that, so like you get there faster. And so probably that's like I'm guessing that's probably one of the reasons why we speed up the double staffing gig there. So in often case double staffing means that you are 50% on a project and 50% on client development, which means making a proposal. Like for me, like I'm high demand, so I generally am on 2 projects because they want to squeeze the actual client work. But a lot of managers generally are on 1 project and 1 proposal development. And proposals are you generally have more time, like there are no like hard deadlines, you know. So it's generally 1 project and 1 internal, if you want, like selling exercise. So it's not too bad. Like I would tell you if it was, you know me, like I'm honest. Like
Right,
it's manageable.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it's good to kind of know that that is potentially an expectation of what the work is, that it is doing the projects, maybe working on concurrent projects at the same time, but then, you know, to move up, there is the client development part of it, or doing the proposals. And that's another next phase, you know, going through that, work, staying in that field. It's like this is what you have, not to look forward to, but to know that these are what would be asked of you going forward.
Yeah, and the proposal can make or break a case, right? Because you need to really understand before you even start understanding the project, you're forced to understand what the client needs, what the client wants. That is not necessarily always what the client needs. And a good proposal can make a great case. A bad proposal that is not well thought around client needs, then I mean, the team starts the project, and when you meet with the client, you realize that it's not what they need. So the proposal said something, but you need to do something completely different. So there is quite a bit of sophistication in that aspect of creating the proposal, which is interesting as well. I mean, a proposal can, if it's well thought through, can make or break a case, right? So it's an interesting part of the job as well.
Definitely. All right, so I want you actually kind of go back a little bit and think about back when you were a student and back when you were at Bloomberg, and trying to think about, you know, before coming to Bloomberg, while at Bloomberg, and then after leaving Bloomberg, how, and you touched on a little bit, how exactly did your expectations change along the way?
Yeah, a lot. So before Bloomberg, I wanted to go back to residency after my master's. So for me, the MPH, and then I attached the MBA, by the way. Like the MBA was an idea that I got along the way, like, I mean, while applying, but I didn't even want to do an MBA. So my idea was to take some time off because I didn't know exactly what specialty to do for residency. Like I was dermatology or thoracic surgery or psychiatry, literally different fields. I'm like, I'm a mess. I need some time off, but I don't want to actually take like a sabbatical. I want to do something meaningful that can position me even better for my residency application. When I joined, you know, Bloomberg is a like hundreds of people that are fantastic. They have all these experiences. They drop on, like, they write books, they travel, they save the world. So like you have all these inputs. You're like a kid in a candy store, right? So like that shocked me in a good way, pretty much at the beginning. And so I'm like, do I really want to go back? Because the world is full of opportunities, like besides residency. And so I started thinking about, you know, like doing something in public health, but still like corporate America type of style, like the Bill Gates Foundation, where, you know, like these type of companies that are well structured, they have money to manage. It's still like a type of work that is not just like spreading money out there. It's a structured consulting style, if you want. I mean, the Bill Gates friends of mine, they are consultants at the end of the day. So I wanted to do that, but then, you know, like they were just so much. I mean, they wanted a prior experience, and I had medical school, but I didn't have prior work experience. And the more I talked to these people, the more they wanted a compelling reason to join these companies, and I didn't. I explored pharma. Pharma, same story. Like they like MDs, but they like MDs with a residency already, or MDs with a PhD, or MDs with work experience. And I didn't have work experience. So consulting, I mean, I was attracted by consulting, but was also strategic in the sense that it was the only field that I explored that was sponsoring green cards and working visas for international people. That was a top consideration for me. And second, that didn't require prior work experience. They just want people consulting in general, especially companies like tier A, like LEK, McKinsey, BCG, Bain, these type of companies, probably mostly these four. They don't care about your background. They care that you're smart. They care that you are coachable. They care that you have the potential. If they see the potential, no matter your background, no matter your work experience, no matter anything else. And I like that, the trust that they put in the management consulting put in people, purely because of, and you can prove that through extracurriculars, through degrees, through traveling to Uganda and bungee jumping around the world, like whatever it is. But we have different ways to test the leadership, to test the potential. And so consulting for strategic reasons, because I like the industry, I like the people that I met, became my goal. And the moment that it became my goal, I was laser focused. Because one of the mistakes that I saw a lot of people doing is that they have consulting along with other four things. If you want management consulting, that's that. The moment that you realize that you want that, then you gotta put like 150% of your efforts in getting a job there, because the bar of entry is pretty high. So a little bit of a mess at the beginning. Once I figured it out, laser focused.
Got it. And then in terms of the getting into work to where you have never done it before. So we've had the discussions earlier this week with folks about how to get into work with limited or no experience. And luckily you fell into an industry that didn't really require that. But can you give the kind of, and you touched on it just as you were finishing up, like the things that students can do in terms of applying what they learn in the classroom to demonstrate interest for something that they've never done before? So what advice would you give for that? Knowing what comes from a Bloomberg training, how can somebody advocate for themselves that they can do this work that they've never done before?
Yeah, good question. For consulting specifically, right?
Yep.
So one of the things that I did, I make in my resume pop up statistics, biostatistics. So all consulting companies like analytics. So the more you can prove that you can use analytics tool, that it could be as simple as Excel and as complex as Python, that's something that the consulting, especially MBBs and LEK, we love that. So like focusing a lot on the analytics piece. Leadership, very important. I didn't have work experience before my master's, and I proved the leadership piece through, I was president of the consulting club and of the JB Grant Society. And I mentioned that as a line item in my resume, right? That's leadership. I manage a team of X number of people. I raised X $1,000 and this and that. So that's proving leadership. Those are probably two key things to sell yourself.
Right.
In terms of preparing yourself, analytics still works. Doing a lot of those classes where you need to, the experiential type of thing, where you need to, there were a lot of classes in my MBA especially, but also in my MPH, where you had a project to do, right? So you need to work with a team, and it's always challenging to work with a team because some people are unplugged, they don't do anything. Some people do a lot, but it's so you experience the challenges of working in a team, and how you convince everyone to put in the right amount of work. How do you distribute work based on what people can do or cannot do? Play on people's strength instead of trying to fix the weaknesses, because you cannot fix people weaknesses in 4 weeks. So in my job, I train people and whatever, but I tend to play on their strength. I cannot afford playing on the weakness, like fixing the weaknesses like right away, right? In 4 weeks. So doing a lot of those projects that require a team project, a lot of those classes that require a team project that prepare me for my job, because that's pretty much what we do in consulting. You start the project, you understand what you're doing, you put a presentation together, you present it. that's consulting. So doing a lot of those, it's like helping, honestly. And I did that both in my MPH and in my MBA, not necessarily intentionally, but that happened and that prepared me. You know, especially projects that require maybe interviewing people or like some sort of analysis in Excel. You know, generally a project that we do in consulting as a model, an interview campaign, a synthesis of findings and all that, secondary research. Like it's literally what you're doing in your master program. So exposing yourself to that prepares people to consulting, in my opinion.
Yeah, and would you say too, and just knowing the fast pace of it, so like everything is condensed, everything is done in 8-week terms, that knowing that you have to turn things around very quickly, do you feel like that was also an advantage of the program for what you're doing now?
Yeah, because I mean the MPH is a fast pace. I mean 9 months and you learn the universe in 9 months or 12 months. And you know, it's pretty much consulting. I mean, the good thing about consulting that's the reason why I don't miss school at all, is that we don't work weekends. So weekends I unplug. You know, vacations I unplug, like totally. I go to Key West all the time. Like every 8 weeks or so, I spend 10 days in Key West. Unplug. Like my laptop dies, my work phone dies. No one can reach out to me. I send the email like out of office. Sorry. No, not sorry actually. So that's, you can unplug, you make a lot of money. So you don't, I mean, I paid back my student loan. There was a sizable one in 2 years, like literally, like it's a lot of money. So you don't have the financial stress. So like it's the same pace as a high intensity program, like an MBA, like an MPH, an MBA, but you have like a lot of like downtime, weekends and all that. You can travel, you get the money, you get to deliver to a client. You don't get a grade, you know, which, so you're not chasing the grade, but you're chasing the best result. So you remove the grade portion from the equation. So you're not working towards, I mean, you're working towards your promotions, like maybe, but not towards like the project to be graded. The client, you want the client to smile and the client to say, oh, this is impressive work. You know, that's what you're chasing in consulting.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to jump around a bit. I'm going to actually jump over here to this question 8, which is, have you ever had a career setback that you faced that you later realized was an advantage? And then how were you able to leverage that?
I mean, if I think about an advantage, like, I don't know if it's a setback but the fact that I'm international, so that I didn't have a working visa, that I was on an F1, huge advantage, because that forced me to chase the few jobs that are the highest paying jobs that sponsor visas. So when my classmates were making $90,000 a year, I was making $260. You know what I'm saying? Like at the beginning, first salary. You know, and that's because I was forced to chase jobs that was sponsoring visas, and those are generally the jobs that pay the most, right? So that's probably something that I always thought during my 2 years. I felt so bad about that. I felt so bad about being international. I felt so bad about being on an F1, because I'm like, no one is gonna want me. Now what about the politics? What about like how do I even do it? Like, do I need to ask if they sponsor, or are they gonna tell me after I get the job, or do I need to shut up and then let's see how it works? Do I need to find a husband? Do you know, like, you know, I was thinking everything. And at the end of the day, if I think now back, like it was a big challenge that I faced, and I'm succeeding. I didn't get my green card yet, but hopefully in a few months. But that forced me to, I mean, it was an additional challenge. I mean, that's the reason why I founded this affinity group on my company that is called AIDA, Achieving International Diversity and Inclusion, to change the narrative around being international, right? And to show like that's an advantage, like that's an additional challenge. I want my American colleagues to know that it's an additional stress that we have on top of a stressful job, but I also want to change the narrative around what it means, and that's an advantage, you know. So that's probably, I mean, I didn't recognize that as an advantage back then. Back then for me was a huge limitation.
Right.
Looking back, that was a big advantage.
and what's important about it is to know is that it gives you not a, I think you had the mentality of that this is going to force me to look for the the best position that I can in the limited space that I'm looking at, and I'm refining what I'm looking at more and more based upon your interest, plus what you have the ability to do, and that you're, without even noticing it, you're making the decisions about what to do that are checking all the necessary boxes for you, whether they are things directly in front of you or things that are just, are part of who you are, which is wanting to help patients, have big impact, and doing it in a certain way.
Yeah, and then I also want to say that, like, I mean, not everyone that graduates from the master. I mean, I have a lot of friends that will never live in the US. They don't like it. They want to live in Europe. They want to live in Asia. So I'm talking from a perspective of someone that wanted to stay here because I like the US. Like, I love the pace. I love the fact that it's big and you go from one coast to the next, you speak the same language. But that's me. I have a bunch of friends that literally join Johns Hopkins to go back to their country or to go to Asia because they wanted to do something with Asia or Africa, whatever it is. So that's a personal experience. I'm not saying at all that people need to stay in the US.
Right.
They graduated here. That
Right.
I'm just saying that it's feasible, and
Right.
you just need to be a little more targeted in terms of the companies. I mean, if a company doesn't sponsor at all, there is no reason to look into that. You know what I'm saying? So it's already a screening of those companies that I did. I remember I had an Excel back in the days where I was listing all the companies that I was interested in, and I was listing if they were sponsoring or not. And if they were not, like, I was not even talking to those companies. Like, why wasting time, right? So that helped me like narrow down the list, and that was even beyond consulting, right? Even on public health companies.
Yeah. So kind of not a question that I have prepared here, but just one to kind of ask you about is, if you were to move out of consulting, what types of roles do you think you would transition into? Like, where do you feel like what you have learned so far and done so far could be utilized in other spaces?
Yeah. So, I mean, personally, I don't plan to leave my company or to leave consulting, but I can share like what people generally do when they leave consulting and the applicability of the skills that you learn in this job. So consultant, maybe broader point, consultants are generally the highest demand, the people that are most on demand, because we work with so many clients, so many different challenges. We always can figure it out, like one way or another. So every company wants a person that has the flexibility to get a problem without industry knowledge, without the knowledge of that problem, of that area, whatever, and try to fix it. In life sciences, the most typical exit that we have at LEK is for pharma. So either going to work for a client, let's say that you work for company X, I'm mentioning a company like random, like Novartis, and Novartis loves you, and so they offer you a job. Like, that's very common. And that's what we call good attrition. So people that leave for those companies, then they generate business later on for LEK. So that's the way that consulting also keeps itself sustainable. Some people leave for private equity, which is kind of similar gig, maybe a little more money than consulting, but more like fluctuates a little more with market dynamics, while consulting is a little more stable. So a high risk, high reward career. Some people work in nonprofit. So I have a bunch of friends of mine that left at the manager level, at my level, to work for what was the name of that company? Inspire, which is a company that does a lot of pro bono work. Or they go, like, we had Bill Gates Foundation exits. So we have people that want to actually be like even closer to the impact portion, and they leave for this type of companies. And we have a bunch of people that do that for like 2-3 years and then boomerang back to LEK. That's common as well. So they want to just leave LEK for a while, 2-3 years. They boomerang back at 2 or 3 roles above the role that they left. that's common as well. But literally, the applicability of the skills of a consultant opens up. I mean, I get probably 2-3 recruiter emails a day, and they're all like, they're a mess. Like some of them are in pharma for all the different roles, like strategy or analytics or product launch for this little tiny thing. Or I get emails from competing companies, of course. I get emails from technology companies that have nothing to do with biopharma.
Right.
So literally just the LEK brand, the McKinsey, these type of big brands, like they attract, I mean, you attract recruiters from a lot of different industries because the skills they can be translated pretty much everywhere.
Right. Got it. Great. So we have a few minutes left. I want to see if anybody does have a question. Feel free to put into the chat, or if you'd like to raise your hand, come off mute to ask a question for Ago. Yep, go ahead.
Hello, hi, Dr. Pozzi. It was really nice listening to your perspectives. Just wanted to understand, like, which all platform did you use for preparing for your case prep? For instance, like we have Case Coach, we have Archer, and besides Johns Hopkins Case Competition, consulting club where they partner you with different team members. Did you find anything relevant, or your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so there are different platforms, different ways to prepare, and different things to do. So I think that the most important piece is to start. So don't think that you need to sign up for like 5 different platforms. And there are a bunch of case examples online. I mean, of course, there is the case in point book, and then there are a bunch of books with cases. I would just buy one of those and find a partner, or like 5 better, to practice projects with. So literally I was spending my Saturdays and Sundays when I was and other days within the week to practice cases with a different partner all the time, or like the same 4 or 5 partners. But you need to practice with those. That's the best way to prepare. And you get to a point, and then even chatting with people that you don't even know. There is this Rocket Block, I think it was called. There is a platform online that connects you with people that are practicing for cases, and that's a good way to be uncomfortable a little bit because you don't know the person. It's like a simulation of an interview. So don't overwhelm yourself with all the different platforms, whatever. Just start the process and commit the time. That's probably preparing for these interviews. I always say that is a lifestyle. It's not something that you do 3 hours a week. It's a mindset. You need to really, whenever you read a paper or something, even in school, you need to think about how you would approach the problem as a consultant at LEK or another company. So you're getting to the point where you're almost obsessing about approaching everything as a project, right? I mean, I remember I was going to a bar in Fells Point, and I was literally talking with my case, my case buddy and me, we're going for a beer, and we're chatting, how much liters of beers do you think that they sell a day? And we started thinking about, okay, the capacity, like how many bartenders, like what's the speed. Literally we came up with an estimation of how many liters of beer they were selling a day in front of a beer. So it was even fun, right? But you start obsessing over this thing, and when you obsess to this level, it means that you're ready to get the job, or the likelihood to get the job are high. Case competitions are important for one main reason, that expose you to consultants at these companies. Like LEK always attends case competitions, McKinsey, BCG. So that's a networking opportunity. That's the reason why I would sign up for that. And then conferences. There are a bunch of conferences that you should attend. I met a bunch of Johns Hopkins people at ROMPA, that is an LGBT conference in DC last year in October. And it's a good way to get in touch with these companies, because, I'm not sure Johns Hopkins now is a target school for I know that the PhD program is, but these conferences remove the target school piece out of the equation, right? Everyone is exposed, everyone has the same type of opportunities. It also target school or whatever, like you can always get into the, I mean, I was not from a target school when I applied for LK. But I knew some people that I met through the consulting club, and they helped me getting an interview. So it's a little tiny harder if you're not a target school, but it's totally doable. So the networking piece, the preparation piece, those are the two main things. And understanding the timelines, kind of like give yourself, like, I'm exaggerating probably, but 8-9 months of preparation and everything before the interview, which means like 6 months before the application. Because a lot of people, sometimes I send people in for interviews, and that happens 3 days after I recommend them to get an interview, right? So they're not ready. And that's tricky. You always need to be ready. When you connect with people, when you want to be referred, you want to be ready, right? Because that's a missed opportunity that you're leaving on the table so much by not being ready, right?
Thank you so much. Really helpful.
Awesome.
So Aga, we have another question here. It says, how did you manage to learn about clients and be able to provide useful advice as a new consultant who didn't have experience?
Yeah, I mean, clients generally, when we start a project, they share a bunch of presentations about their product, about their company. You study that, you read that, like pretty much the same thing that you do in a class, right? The professor gives you materials, you study it, and you get smart. You ask questions. We have kickoff meetings where you ask questions that you don't understand. And then the way to approach a problem, let me think about, yeah, I'm working now for a client that is in the retina space. They have an injection for the eye. I didn't know anything about the condition or the drug when I joined this project. And what they wanted is an assessment of their commercial plan. So what we do in that case is, okay, they share a bunch of materials, literally thousands of slides. I read them all, figured out the product, the company, like everything that they have, they don't have, how many people, whatever. Then I work on projects like this before, so I know pretty much how many people a company that is launching their first product should have. I know how much they should spend year 1, year 2 of launch. And so I was able to pressure test a little bit what they were doing. And then we did a bunch of interviews with doctors to figure out if they would adopt the product. You know, then you have pretty much like cookie cutting type of analysis that you can do. They're all customized based on the product, but you don't need to know that in advance, right? You learn, I mean, even the partners, they learn about this disease area while working with the client. So I mean, every case is new, every case is a learning experience. It's like a class, you know, you start, you don't know anything, at the end, you can teach it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the idea of doing a lit review for a research project is, you know, seeing what's out there, learning, asking questions.
Yeah, and you're gonna at the end, totally, and at the end of when you do the literature review, you're gonna be probably more knowledgeable than each individual author of the papers, right? Because you know 20 papers, not just the one that you know what I'm saying. So like at the end of the day, you become an expert because you have the perspective from the company, but you also talk with a bunch of other companies with the same problem. You piece everything together and you become an advisor.
Right. Well, I know that we're a few minutes over time. I know we got started a little bit late, but just want to see if there's any other question or anything else to add into the chat for Ago. Well, I'm not seeing anybody come off or anything show up in the chat. I just want to take this as an opportunity to say thank you again, Ago, for coming in. Speaking, you know, really, truly great insights about consulting work and how you got into it and things like that. So I really appreciate your time joining us today.
Awesome. Maybe closing thought. I mean, it's a stressful process. Applying for a new job, pivoting to a different career is a stressful process. But I always tell everyone, embrace the stress because it's the reward. I mean, you get to know yourself also. I mean, applying for a new job different, especially if it's different compared to what you were doing before, forces yourself to get to know yourself and what you want. You need to ask yourself questions. What do I really want? Like, now I got my master's, like I'm changing career. Like, that's probably, I'm not going to do that other 5 times in my life. That's probably one of the last times in my life that I'm changing career. So what do I want? What do I want to lead? Like, what's great for me and for my life? So I mean, now in retrospect, that's what happened to me. Like, I needed to ask myself the hard questions, and it's tough, it's stressful, but it's probably one of the greatest opportunities that I had to get to know myself.
Yeah, I'll often say time for students is you don't have to have figured out what you want to do, but you know what you don't want to do, but then that helps to inform what you could do and, just give you a path to kind of go down for sure.
Yeah, and being open, I didn't even know how to spell consulting when I joined Hopkins, but I was very open to listening, everyone, I didn't cut off anything at the beginning, right? Like I had all these inputs and I was considering literally everything. Like, so be open, listen, question yourself.
Yep.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Paul,
you.
for inviting me. It was great. I hope it was helpful.
Yep. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.